Here.
Councilmember Pappen,
Here.
Councilmember Oliva,
Here.
Vice Mayor Snyder,
Here.
Mayor Holliver,
Present.
all council members are present.
All right. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have no ceremonial presentations this evening, so we will now go to the agenda overview and staff briefing. We have our city manager, Tom Williams. Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to you and members of the City Council and the community that's attending tonight's meeting. The agenda overview, we have our standard calendar of events, reports of bills and claims, and reporting out of the November 10th, 2020 closed session. From the November 10th, there is no reportable action. I'll let the city attorney report out for the November 24th, 2020 closed session. Item number 3, we have approval of the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of September 8th. We have no oral reports from any committee or commission chairs this evening. After that, then the City Council will take public communication, and that's for any member of the public that wishes to address the City Council on any item not on the agenda. There is a time limit of 3 minutes to present anything not on the agenda to the City Council. Then moving to the consent calendar, we have item number 5. That's to consider adoption of a resolution approving the tentative agreements for our successor memorandum, MOU, with our Teamsters Local 586 miscellaneous unit, and approving an agreement for our successor memorandum of understanding with the Teamsters Local 856 sanitation unit. Item number 6 under consent calendar is to consider a resolution supporting a joint building resilient infrastructure and communities grant, known as a BRIC grant application that Millbrae, City of Millbrae, City of Burlingame, and San Francisco International Airport will be submitting to FEMA. And that is for sea level rise project planning. There is no public hearing this evening. Moving on then to existing business under item 7 is to consider adoption of a resolution making draft findings and declaring the intent to consider overriding the San Mateo City County Association of Governments, known as CCAG's, Airport Land Use Committee determination of their finding of inconsistency regarding the City of Millbrae's proposed zoning text amendment to the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan to allow with a conditional use permit biotech uses up to level 2 in the TOD zone south of Millbrae Avenue. Item number 8 is an action item to receive the Recreation Center design update as well as a construction status and update of the Recreation Center. Item then 9 under new business is to consider adoption of the fiscal year 2021 Park and Recreation Commission work plan. That concludes the business items on the agenda. Then the council will move to council comments and report out on committees and commissions. In terms of what's happening the last couple of weeks in the city of Millbrae, we did move, I think, as most people know, we moved to the more restrictive red tier under the governor's order for the COVID-19 cases. So the state of California did announce last week that San Mateo County has fallen back into this more restrictive category, which is the red tier. The most restrictive is the purple tier. We may be moving back up to the purple tier. It could happen any day, and certainly look for city announcements and county-wide announcements if we do move into the purple tier. But the cases have shifted. We're now at 5.7 new daily cases per 100,000. And the objective to get us back into the yellow tier is 2.2 cases per 100,000 population. And so we want to continue to send a message out: social distance, hand washing, wear a mask, only travel if absolutely necessary for essential services. There are a lot of resources that are out there for seniors, as we've mentioned over the last several months. Please look at our website, log on to the county's COVID-19 website for resources. And you can always email or call the city, and we can direct you and provide assistance to get through this. In terms of what is happening again locally here, we do have our virtual tree lighting, and this is a virtual event this year. It is scheduled for Saturday, December 5th at 5 p.m. The council and a few people will be present, and MCTV will be broadcasting the tree lighting live. Also, for our residents throughout the month of December, on Magnolia, you can drive by and enjoy the large tree out in front of City Hall for the season. Also, we on Friday, December 12th, in association with the Millbrae Lions Club, we'll have our holiday movie drive-in night. It is all sold out. It's a very popular event. The community voted on Elf, so that will Elf is the show for the drive-in movie on December 4th. Anybody that is interested, we do have a waiting list in case people cancel their reservations, so you can log on to our city website and visit our recreation department's sign up that is available under the recreation department. And Mr. Mayor, I think that concludes the update. Oh, one other thing too, with us moving back into the red tier and the restrictions, we're encouraging and want to mention if everyone could shop local, do the best you can to shop local here and support the Millbrae businesses and community. And every dollar that is spent here locally that supports our businesses, keeps their doors open, keeps local people employed. And let's really do our share to really support local businesses here in Millbrae, especially through this red tier and beyond the holiday season. And so that's it, Mr. Mayor. That concludes staff's update.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Okay, we will now go on to the approval of minutes. We have regular meeting of September 8th, 2020, minutes to approve.
I move to approve.
Okay.
Happen second.
Okay, there is a motion from Councilman Lee and a second from Councilwoman Pappen. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
I just want to state something for the record. I did
Oh,
receive
yes.
a comment from Vice Mayor Snyder regarding committee naming. So for community enhancement, I am adjusting it to Millbrae Community Enhancement, and also cultural arts will be under Millbrae Cultural Arts. Those are the minor updates to the minutes.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
all right.
Okay.
And I will go ahead and.
And I see, sorry, Mr. Conran, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I don't think we reported it out from closed session.
Oh, okay. Can you do that after the approval of the minutes, if that's okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right, let's have a roll call vote then with the corrections.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Yep.
Councilmember Pappen.
Yes.
Councilmember Oliva.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Snyder. Vice Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Halliburton.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The meeting minutes of regular meeting September 8th were approved unanimously with amendments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. If we can go back now to the report out from closed session, November 10th, 2020 and November 24th, 2020. Mr. Conran?
I think the city manager will need to report on November 10th.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there's no reportable action out of the November 10th closed session.
Okay.
And
And then November
similarly,
24th?
for the closed session tonight on the city manager evaluation, there is no reportable action.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are now moving on to public communication. This is the opportunity for any members of the public to speak on any items that are not on this evening's agenda. If you'd like to speak, please use the raised hand feature in Zoom. If you are phoning in, there are instructions on the agenda on the city website for how to phone in to provide comments. Speakers will have up to 3 minutes. Let's see. Any public comment on items not on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, it looks like Ms. Kathleen Camara is raising her hand. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
No, I can't see anybody. I see a thumbs up. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Kimura. You're supposed to use the raised hand feature, but go ahead. You're muted.
Mute. Okay, I can't find the raised hand feature, so excuse me. Good evening, good evening, council members, and I basically would like to. I've lived in Millbrae for 42 years now, but I would like to talk tonight and thank the Millbrae Recreation Centre on behalf of the Millbrae's Japanese Culture Festival Committee. Would like to thank specifically Jeffrey Gabriel of the Rec Centre for promoting our 1000 crane project. As you know, we were unable to have our Millbrae Japanese Culture Festival this year. And as you know, the 2 flags that we used to have flying in the background of our stage were burnt in the Rec Centre fire. And we would like to remake those flags with origami cranes again. And I would also like to thank the parents and the students at Taylor Middle School who spent 2 weekends, 2 sessions each, making origami cranes. I went over to see them and they were so enthusiastic. And also I'd like to thank Mills High School Interact Club, the Japan Club at Mills High School, and the Millbrae Rotary Club for helping us to promote this, and also the Millbrae Community TV, and everyone out there who helped make origami cranes and help support this effort. And I think we do have a lot of cranes. We're looking forward, hopefully next year, to being able to congregate together so that we can perhaps put some of these cranes together to remake the 2 flags that we lost. And we're also hoping that it will be possible for us to hold our festival on Sunday, October the 3rd, 2021. So let's hope that next year is going to be a super duper year and we can all get back to having our festivals and enjoying our community in Millbrae. But I'd just like to thank all those in the community on behalf of our Millbrae Japanese Culture Festival Committee who have helped us in this effort. So that's all I have to say. So happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kimura. And it's unfortunate that the festival was canceled this year in person, but I'm glad we were able to make the most out of our situation and work with our staff to be able to put something together. And we hope to be able to host you again next year as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments, public comment is now closed. So we will now move on to the consent calendar. There are 2 items, items 5 and item 6.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Leave a second.
Okay. Seeing no comments or any other comments from the council, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Councilmember Oliva,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Snyder,
Aye.
Mayor Halber.
Aye.
Consent item 5 and number 6 are unanimously approved.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
shall we just move item 9 up for if there's anybody from the Rec Commission?
I was going to suggest that as well. So thank you for that. I believe we have Chair Julie Turner with us. Oh, and Commissioner John Kiefer as well from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Do we have a presentation?
Yes. Hi, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is Mackenzie Brady, Recreation Director. I will be sharing my screen. And are you all able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and put it into presentation mode. All right, and Chair Turner, just let me know when you would like me to change to the next slide.
Sure thing. Thank you. Thank you, Mackenzie. Mayor and honorable City Council members, thank you for this opportunity to share with you the report out on our accomplishments for FY 1920, as well as our agenda, shall we say, in terms of a work plan and our objectives for 2021. Next slide, Mackenzie.
Sorry, I'm working and it is not progressing. Hold on. Just give me a moment. Let me restart
Sure,
it.
go right ahead. Let me just say that the next slide is a summary and a reminder for those on the commission and their terms. So we do have Vice Chair Commissioner Dan Quigg. We have Commissioner Del Negro. We have Commissioner Stephanie Douglas and Commissioner John Kiefer. And there we go. Okay. I was toggling between my desktop and the presentation. So it looks like we have all of the members listed here. Thank you, Mackenzie. Next slide. Okay, so this is a summary of our accomplishments during FY 1920. Just as a reminder, pretty much that fiscal year was, this is a very impressive list as I went back and reviewed it with Mackenzie. Effectively, given most of the year was canceled due to COVID restrictions. So, however, the BPAC committee has continued to do a excellent job of continuing with their regular monthly meetings to review the feedback and input around bike and pedestrian projects, including grant reviews that are available and have been used to help fund those projects and move the projects forward. They completed setting goals in February, just before we went into the COVID restrictions, and drafted a letter to Caltrain requesting that easement between Hillcrest, Victoria, east of Hemlock. The community garden project was finalized. The good news is that the garden is outside, not subject, to much more than the social distancing. But I know I was up there just about a month ago, and everything up there was thriving. I mean, plants overgrowing. It's an amazing sight to see. Under the circumstances that we can't go somewhere and do a lot of things, I think, just getting out into the park and seeing that community garden is a very fulfilling experience. And we're very grateful now to have this in our community. It's interesting. I know we've been working on some other projects, and interestingly enough, people have been coming to other projects saying, how come we don't have a community garden? And we look at them and kind of say, well, we do have one. So clearly the word hasn't spread widely in the community. So I think we still want to get some word out there and have people just become aware of that. It's a fantastic addition to our community. Beats and Brews, of course, from last summer, the summer of 2019. Hopefully we can get back to that in the summer of 2021. But the feedback on that event, was fantastic, and that's definitely something we want to put on our, looking forward to list once we're beyond the pandemic here. The grant review process, we continue to work on that with the assistance of staff here with Mackenzie and Tom and Jeff, Gabriel, who are all helping and looking for those opportunities and helping to move those forward in a quickly and swift fashion. The Prop 68 grant, for the rec center, we've got the National Fitness Campaign for the fitness court, land water conservation for the skate park and the fitness court. The list here is very healthy. We look forward to also doing more of that here in the current fiscal year, and I'll get to that in the next slide. But we did look and review at the disc golf process. The Rotary Club was the group that brought that to us for the presentation. I think the concept was very much an interest in the community. I think we were concerned the location, which now we can see is very busy with activity in the COVID, but at the time we were looking at that, I guess we must have had a sixth sense that that area was going to be much busier. So, if and when there is another opportunity to find a space for that, I think we would be very interested in revisiting that. The commission, continues to do a review of the fee schedule. Obviously, this fee schedule was done, in light of the portable recreation center that we have. I think with the new recreation center coming up and being put into operation here in 2022, we look forward to, continuing to be a part of that process ongoing to help advise the City Council on those programs and fees going forward. Of course, the climate action plan, we did review that prior to City Council review. The recreation center itself and the facility, that obviously was a lot of input and work being done by our subcommittee there, and then bringing that feedback to the commission, which then was passed along onto the council, and now we've been able to break ground on that. That was October 1st, and looking forward to continuing to watch that process. I tune into the webcam regularly to get a bird's eye view. That's actually a fabulous addition to the project. So thank you for allowing the community to be able to view that with that camera. And of course, the Millbrae Movie Night, which our city manager, Tom Williams, was referring to earlier. That is one event that it has continued. It's very successful. I know, I hear lots of feedback around the community of, that being something that everybody looks forward to. And I hear that you get snaps and props if you actually show up to this month's movie dressed as an elf. So there you go. Anybody who's interested, you can go see the movie and dress as an elf. All right, next slide. And this is our last slide for the FY 2021 work plan. And for the most part, I think we wanted to really retain the spirit and the body of what our work plan was in fiscal year 20. For the most part, we're still in a pandemic. I think we still need to stay focused on our true priorities and really maintain the course here, right? So with the commission embodying the spirit of, being the advisory body. Oh, sorry. I think I'm getting some background noise. So somebody maybe want to mute their line. And if Elaine, can you help see if you can identify where to mute? Appreciate it. Okay, so let's continue on. The advisory body, we want to maintain that as our primary objective, to continue to provide that feedback and recommendations to the City Council for the park and recreation facilities in our community and the users and the stakeholders of those facilities as well. The active transportation plan as well. We want it with the bike and pedestrian safety. We want to make sure that we're continuing to support that. As I mentioned earlier, that subcommittee of Commissioner Del Negro and John Kiefer have been doing a phenomenal job, and thank you, and I thank them as well, I think, for their ongoing support and commitment to that subcommittee. Programs and fees, as I mentioned earlier, we continue to do that. I think this will be something that will be a more wholesale, broader exercise as we move towards transitioning from our portable facility into the permanent recreation facility just here less than 24 months away. So we will keep that on our work plan for the next fiscal year, or for the current fiscal year. Funding opportunity review, again, this has served us very well in this most recent fiscal year, as well as the current fiscal year. So we wanted to maintain and keep that as a top priority. And so that is task number 4. Capital improvement plan. This is something we were doing, prior to the recreation center event that required us to really pivot to just focus on that one capital project. But I think now that we are on our way with a plan and with a construction and a project underway, we will continue to look at more capital improvement projects going forward for the city. Also, staff support and community enrichment to provide the staff with the recommendations that we get from the community to help the bridge the perhaps balance of community wants and needs and concerns, along with what perhaps staff resources we might have available and things like that. So we will continue to support the staff while enriching community at the same time. And of course, the last one is the tree ordinance, which we will continue to review. We did see a draft of that. I believe it was the beginning of this fiscal year. And as I can speak to personally, that is a very comprehensive ordinance that we are going to make sure that we are approaching with the utmost concern and attention and thoughtfulness as to how to, again, to balance the needs of the community, the desires of the community, with how we can create a beautiful city with beautiful trees going forward. And I think that is the end of this presentation. Are there any questions from council?
All right, thank you very much, Chair Turner, for that report. Let's see. Any comments or questions from the council? Use the raised hand feature. Okay, Councilman Lee.
Thank you, Chair Turner and Commissioner Kiefer and the other commissioners. Your job has been pretty busy in the last couple of years. I just want to show you and say how grateful we are for you continue to grow this city. Obviously, open space and recreation is probably one of the most important items that occurs in the city. And so we thank you for all that work. And I know some of these things are controversial, and we have full confidence that you will make a fully informed decision that will benefit, and will take the courageous decision that will benefit all next generations to come. So again, thank you for all the work and guidance for the community center and all of the work you do to make sure that all of our user groups, the baseball program, soccer program, and other programs are being met. And except for this COVID time, of course, but I'm pretty sure that you're also making other adjustments as well. So thanks again.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to acknowledge your comment there that, at this time of the year, normally, our youth athletic community would be primarily focused on prepping for the turkey tournament and, the Millbrae Cup and things of that nature. So many things that, thankfully, Commissioner Kiefer and I and yourself, Councilmember Lee, can reflect back on those memories. But I know that there is a large population of youth in our community that are missing out on that. So we are very anxious to get back to, helping and supporting and providing those opportunities to enrich this community. So thank you, though, for your acknowledgement. Appreciate that.
Okay. Vice Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. Chair Turner and Director McKenzie, I know you were all of you were working on trying to get an aquatics program. I know you had been looking at several different approaches for it. And sadly, Meadows Pool, that I used to be a member of, my dad was a former president of, that didn't quite come through. Can you add continuing trying to create an aquatics program for Millbrae. I know the pools are still closed because of COVID, but if we could try to keep planning for it someday. I'm very concerned that as our temperatures get hotter and our heat waves get longer, we have no way for people without a backyard swimming pool to cool off. So I find this very critical for health and safety, as well as just people being able to learn how to swim. Again, health and safety. So can we add an aquatics program to the work plan?
Hi, Vice Mayor. This is Mackenzie Brady. We will definitely continue to try to work with Meadows to gain access. At one point, we did have a plan with them to potentially do swim-in movie nights for youth and teens, and also swimming lessons. So those conversations just need to continue.
Okay, I can tell you one of the most satisfying classes you can ever teach is a Tiny Tots program. When parents or older siblings bring the babies in to get them water wise, it's a critical part of life safety skills, and it's just plain fun. So hopefully the board of Meadows Pool will continue to work with us and we can find a happy solution.
Yeah, Mackenzie, I think we can include that under our task number 3 for programs and fees, right? To continue to revisit and review the opportunities to get that aquatics program in place.
Thank you,
I
Chair
agree.
Turner.
I know we went through some pretty hot days here back in, I think that was September, I think we had some pretty warm days here. So yes, that will definitely be a top priority, assuming the COVID restrictions can be lightened up so that we can embark on that. But yeah, I think task number 3 would encompass that. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent,
Yes,
thank you.
This is Mackenzie again. There's also the possibility to work with San Bruno with their new facility as well.
And they have reached out to me, at least one of their council members would love that opportunity, but I don't know when the new pool will get built. So, but anything we can do would just be fabulous.
Good options and partners we could potentially work with. Okay, any other comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Oh, Mayor Holliver,
go ahead.
I think
Yes.
Council Member Oliva?
I did.
Might
I
have
had
had-
one comment.
yeah.
Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Okay, go ahead.
I'm on I belong to that Millbrae Meadows Swim Club, and I'm just kind of curious. I think the swim lessons are open to the public. You can sign up for swim lessons. So I'm not quite sure what the problem is there, and if there is, I'd like to be able to help get in on that.
Yes,
I
we
know-
could definitely use your help at some point. We could talk further about
Yeah,
that.
Mackenzie, let me know what I could do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the work
moved.
plan?
Happen move.
Second,
Oliva second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilwoman Pappen and a second from Vice Mayor Schneider. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen. Aye. Councilmember Oliva,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Snyder,
aye.
Mayor Halbert.
Aye.
Okay. The council unanimously approved the Parks and Recreation Commission fiscal year 20 to 21 work plan.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd also like to recommend that we move item number 8 before item 7 because we have some consultants here from ELS, Architecture and Block Construction, if the council so desires. So let's go ahead with item 8 and the Recreation Center Design and Construction Update. And could we have a presentation, please?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mayor. I'd like to introduce Jane Cow, our project manager for the project here with the city.
Hi, good evening. Let me screen share here. Give me a second. All right, can you guys let me know if you're seeing the right screen?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Jane Cow here with Public Works, here to give an update on the Millbrae Recreation Center project. The agenda for today's presentation, we'll be giving a quick background, and then there'll be a design, construction schedule, and budget update. Background. So on August 25th of this year, City Council awarded the design build contract to Block Construction and also approved the community workforce and project labor agreement. On September 30th, we issued the notice to proceed. And on October 1st, we had a very well attended and successful, exciting groundbreaking ceremony. So I want to just take a quick moment to thank everybody who helped put this together, as well as all the everybody who attended the event. Oh. All right, design update. So in the last 2 months since we've issued the notice to proceed, the project team has really accomplished a lot on many fronts. As previously mentioned, the design build process is a very, very fast-paced process. Design and construction are essentially happening concurrently. And the first step of the design build process is to finalize the general interior layout and the building footprint. Then the structural engineers can go and do their thing and design the structural component as well as the foundation. So while this is all happening, the site demolition permit, as you can see here on bullet point number 1, the documents were completed, submitted, and a permit was issued. So if you visited our project website recently, www.millbraerecreationcenter.com, and checked out the live feed, you can see that the demolition work is moving along very quickly. So as the site is being demoed, the design team works on the interior, exterior, as well as the site design, and really moving along with the site infrastructure permit documents, the second bullet point here. So this permit set includes site utilities and rough grading, and this has been completed and submitted for review. So we're working on getting that permit issued. And then in terms of permits, the next permit will be the structural and foundation set. So as you can see, this is moving very quickly. As I've mentioned, interior design, exterior design, as well as the site design is happening. So we have actually completed the design development phase. And we're moving on to the 50% construction document phase. What these documents entails is really full plan set, including specification for everything for the project. So we are internally, with the project team working on finalizing the interior floor plan, the building exterior, as well as the overall landscape hardscape design. So now I'm going to hand it over to Clarence McMoyak, the project architect from ELS, Architect and Urban Design, who will run through the elements in the design, all the enhancement in design.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what an exciting time to be back. And actually, just an update to the schedule. 2 hours ago, we submitted the structural engineering design for permit and 50% of the overall construction documents package. So this project is very real and moving at a very, very fast pace. So we're pretty jazzed about that. So what I'm going to get to share are what we're calling enhancements that took place post RFP design. And what I mean by that is when we started the process, us, along with 2 other candidate design build teams, put together designs, and we shared those. And what I'm now going to share with you are the improvements made to our design, and something that we've been working with the city's design committee on. And it's been an interesting and really great collaboration. And so you're going to see the results of that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the site design. Go ahead and click. Next slide. So this is the site plan from the RFP. And again, this was submitted right after we were selected. And we've made 3 changes here. The first change is, if you look at the community meeting room area, right off of that and towards the park, there's a patio area. And immediately adjacent to that patio area is some landscaping. And that landscaping, what we want to do there is we wanted to create a slightly larger lawn area that would basically double the capacity of the patio area. The other item that we've done is we've relocated what is called a bioretention swale. I'll show you that in the next drawing. And then this red line, and this was a pretty important one. We had a handful of meetings with the fire and building code officials. And this route right here shows the pathway of a fire truck that has to maneuver from one side of the project to the other at Lincoln Circle. And this line was considered a little bit too kinked. And we had to sort of smooth out the curves a little bit for the fire truck. So if you click to the next slide, please. So this is the revised and enhanced design. So again, going back to that terrace area, you can see where there are 2 different colors of green. The lighter color of green is essentially sort of twice the square footage now of the terrace patio. So that's a nice sort of lawn area that, again, from the terrace patio, you transition to a flat lawn area. There's another inset of a different color green, sort of along the hillside along Lincoln Circle. That's the bioretention area. It's been relocated to that position. And then you can see the paseo and the red line. We've smoothed out the curves, and we did that by essentially changing the paseo design a little bit here and there. But it was something that satisfied the fire officials. And so we have a site that's fully accessible by fire trucks. So those are the 3 enhancements that we made to the site plan. Now we're going to go to the building. So next slide, please. So the building enhancements really get down to 2 simple additions that we've made. One, we've added more stone veneer over the entire building. And we've also added more glass or glazing, as we call it. So we're going to go on a little tour. We're going to start at the lobby. Next slide, Pete, please. And we're going to walk around the building and end up at Lincoln Center. So the slide that you see on the left was the RFP design. And the thing to note there is there was the windows that are in the art room area and the classroom area, as well as the office area, were considered a little too narrow. And we only had stone really on the face that you can see here. There was no stone anywhere else. If you go to the slide beside it, the image beside it, those same windows, the narrow windows, have been widened. They're almost twice the size they are now. And we've added stone not only to the base, but if you look at what I'll call the south-facing facade, we've added stone in a number of places along this building. If we go to the next slide, we can start to see this a little better. Oh, I see. So here you go. So again, on the south side, you can see how we've added more stone along the vertical face of the 2-story lobby piece. And then all along the base of the building, as it goes all the way back to the community meeting room, we've added more stone there. So this is the current design. Again, more windows, bigger windows, and more stone. So let's go to the next slide. So now we're going to look at the community room and the fitness room and the senior center side of the project. Next slide, please. So again, above is where we were at the RFP design. The one below shows, again, more stone and more glazing. Let's go to the overall. So this shows, again, how we've added, there's more stone. It's sort of symmetrical about the community meeting room. So the corners are anchored with stone. They also have these nice windows that have been added to the corners. The entire front facade that faces the patio of the community meeting room has been glazed, or we've added glass there. So this space is going to be really wonderful. And again, as it looks out onto the patio and then the park beyond, I think it's going to be really terrific. The stone, it also, again, we wanted to anchor both the lobby piece and the community meeting room with a fair amount of stone, and then connect those two major components with stone that runs along the base. So that's what you're seeing as you sort of go back to the lobby area. If you go to the next slide, please. This looks at the community meeting room from another angle. And again, you can see how that stone is symmetrical. Again, lots of nice glazing in the clear story area. And again, all along that, the sort of the front of the community meeting room that faces the patio. The other thing to note is that there are 4 pairs of doors that will basically allow you to access the patio from the community meeting room. Those can stay in the fully open position during events, which I think would be really, really nice as well. So it kind of expands that use of the community meeting room. Okay, next, and this is probably where the change is most dramatic, is the view from Lincoln Avenue. So go ahead, next slide, please. So up above is where we were with the design at the RFP stage. There's a little bit of dark area on the ground floor, right off of what we would call the office or administration area. That was the only area where we had some stone. We also have a little covered walkway there. And again, the windows were much smaller as compared to what you see below. Let's just go to the enlargement slide. Next. So this shows the new arrangement of windows and the bigger sizes of windows. And again, at both the office and daycare area, as well as the art room and classrooms above, the windows have doubled in size. And then all of the windows along the corridors that get you back to the community meeting room, as well as the special spaces up above, those too have larger windows. And again, take note of the stone. You can see how it, again, anchors the base of what we call the classroom wing and daycare wing of the building, and then the stone that's been added to the community meeting room. So overall, again, there's been we think a really nice addition of the stone, and I think the bigger windows. And again, the design committee, hats off to them. I think they pushed us and got us to explore new ideas, and I think the result is really good. So it's been a good process. So those are the updates.
Thank you, Clarence. Jane's back for update on the construction front. So construction fencing, we're up. Sorry. Oh, okay. Construction fencing, we're up on September 21st. And then after that, site preparations was completed. That included installation of stormwater and erosion control measures, as well as the camera that is showing live action of the construction site. We also had hazardous material testing, and unfortunately we found asbestos at 2 locations, and that's the tennis court as well as on the building slab from oat mastic. So this is an unforeseen condition. It could happen to any construction site. So there will be a cost and time impact. So cost impact is up to $159,000 and a potential of 4 weeks delay. So the remediation work requires 10 days notifications as well as 10 days of actual work. So that's how that 4 weeks time impact plays out. And the demolition work was actually pushed back by those 4 weeks from the original baseline schedule. So if you were wondering why nothing was happening for a little bit after the groundbreaking, this is the main reason why. So as you can see in the picture, site demolitions is pretty much completed. We've also completed utility investigation and also removal of existing utilities. Rough grading is up next, and it's going to run through the month of November. What's remaining of it. And then an existing electric transformer was also disconnected that was in the middle of the site. And the reason why, typically PG&E actually performed this task. However, they were extremely backlogged due to the wildfires this year. So therefore our contractor had to perform this work. So in terms of schedule, demolition will be wrapped up by the end of this month. Then foundation work is going to start and it's going to run until February. And then after that, the building structure is going to go up and it's going to take about 4 months. June should be done. And then after that, the exterior skin of the building is going to go up and it's going to run until September 21st. After that, they're going to move on to the interior as well as the site improvements, such as, parking lot, landscaping, stuff like that. And that's going to start in November and it's going to run to March. March 2022 will be substantial completion, and then with grand opening June 2022, as previously presented. Now, the hazardous material remediation work did pose a 4-week potential delay. The contract with block construction has actually extended to into July. However, with this, even with the 4 weeks delay, they're currently tracking to finish by June. Here is a current budget snapshot. So the design build contract is $24.5 million. So far, we have expended $1.57 million. So we're about 6% into the project. The construction contingency is $1.47 million. And so far, we have not paid out anything on that yet. And then the Swinnerton's contract, the PMCM for this project is $1.17 million. And we've so far expended $357,000. So in terms of the contingency there, I previously talked about some costs. Here it is for hazardous material remediation. Like I said, it could be up to $159,000. The removal of the PG&E transformer was $17,000. And the enhancement that Clarence just presented, it's an upgrade from what was previously submitted by Block and ELS. So the change, these enhancement has a cost impact of $230,000. So all these costs are going to be coming from our contingency of the $1.47 million. And then the next two items is the community room partition and the acoustical ceiling treatment. As you recall at the proposal phase, the design build teams had concern meeting the stipulated sums and certain items were pulled out of that. And as previously presented, we intend to put these two items back using contingency funds. So that's the total here, $692,000 is earmarked of the $1.47 million contingency. In terms of project budget, this is the same slide I had shown in August and presented. The total cost to finish the project is still $28.4 million, so nothing has changed. In terms of financing and secured funding, I'm actually happy to report that the total secure funding that is currently available has increased from $11.7 million to $14.9 million. So you see there's two lines that land sale to BART as well as insurance proceed remaining. those two numbers have been updated. The previously presented budget included a very conservative estimate of the available fund from these two line items. So through an audit of the budget, we have found the additional 3.2 million is currently available for this project. So thank you to our finance director, Mike Sung, for auditing the budget and found that this good news. So now the total secure funding is $18.2 million as opposed to previously presented $15 million. So now the overall, this change overall decreases the gap that we need to still fund by 3.2 million, which is now only 10 million. So in terms of funding strategy, this is also the same slide that has previously presented, except for the amount showing for loan against other development fees paid in enterprise. That has been decreased by the $3.2 million that I was just talking about. And then also surplus property sales are pending, and that's still the same estimate that was previously shown. As for future funding possibilities, the $14 million loan from the county is still in discussion. And then of course, there's going to be donation and fundraising. We're currently working with ELS on incorporating a donor recognition on the project site. We have also met with a fundraising consultant from my philanthropy team at the recommendation of Swinnerton to get a little bit help on starting up the fundraising campaign. So tonight's action for the council is recommended to accept the informational update and approve by motion the final building exterior design. And Clarence and I, as well as Peter from Swinnerton, who is our construction management team, are here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Cow and Mr. Mayamek. Hope I got that right. Mayak. You know, the design I think is really coming along very well. Also great to see the additional $3.2 million. And just to confirm, that's actual money that we have in the bank, right? It's not just a line on a spreadsheet or an accounting trick or anything like that. It's actual money that we have that can be used on this project. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right, good to hear that. Obviously the asbestos is a concern, but anything that can be done to try to keep the project within the time frame would be great. Hopefully, as you know, as Block's team continues to work on it, they will be able to beat these timelines and these targets and be able to deliver the project in time. All right, any comments or questions from the council? Let's go to Vice Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, sadly, quite a few. So would you mind pulling up the picture where you show how, is it the west and the south facings of the buildings are? If you could pull those up. In the meantime, and you've known about these changes since October 8th, which to me, whereas I think that the Lincoln Circle side actually looks so much better, except I can't tell where the garbage enclosures and where food is going to be coming in and out of the building and where that fits with the swale. I used to be able to see that, and that wasn't in your drawings. But I think that side looks much, much better. However, I think from the parking lot and from the Paseo, it's looking so square and so modern. I'm trying to be practical here. You got rid of the fake chimney, which I had never really thought of as a fake chimney, but at least it gave some depth. I mean, that picture doesn't look so bad, but the other pictures just make it look like it's a modern, square, squat building. And I'm really disappointed that you guys have known about this since October 8th, and it's November 24th, and we're seeing the drawings now as a fait accompli. That's just really disappointed on that. Does that mean it's going to continue to change and we may end up with a building that looks straight out of the 1960s?
Are you asking me or asking the architect?
The
or-
design team. I don't know who approved these changes without
maybe I can
coming
jump in
back
here.
to us.
Yeah, maybe I
and
can
even,
jump in here.
even
So,
talking to us.
so the reason for not including that kind of faux chimney is we wanted to maximize, and the goal, the overarching goal, was to become net zero. And so that element on the rooftop did not allow us to maximize the rooftop exposure. And we were not at net zero. By eliminating that, we get more PV on the rooftop, and we're able to achieve 100% net zero with PV on the entire building. So we don't have to spend additional money, as you may recall, the Group 4's proposal, to put PV in the parking lot. So a significant cost savings overall to the project, and still maintaining that higher priority of solar panel and net zero on the building.
And maybe the drawing isn't showing it, but to me, those windows look straight out of the 50s and the 60s. Maybe they're better and you guys know what you're talking about, but it doesn't look that way to me. It looks like the ugliest windows in the ugliest buildings on Broadway to me. And yet it seems like I have no say, I have no choice. Is that the case? And is this going to continue to happen?
Well, I will say that coming off of Group 4's design, this is, especially that element, has not changed from Group 4's design.
Well,
the fenestration and windows on that.
City manager, if you look at the senior building or the upstairs senior area, it had those little fins, which at least gave a little bit of character. I see here, you've tried to add some character by having 2 tones of stucco, I'm guessing, on there. So maybe it's not as bad as it looks, but it looks bad to me. I'm just really disappointed. Let me go on to a couple of real questions then. The Community Enhancement Advisory Committee wants to start doing a fundraiser for the specimen tree that was dropped from the project. Could someone get back to them of what the specimen tree is and the various prices are so that they can start doing a goal setting on that? We've kind of been, they've been asking for a couple of months now what that specimen tree might be. The Culture Arts Committee has been tasked to look for opportunities for public art. In all of the changes that are happening, is there consideration of public art, whether it's a mural or a mosaic, or frankly, as this building becomes more and more modern, how to soften the sharp edges with vegetation? Has any of that been identified so that the committee that's been tasked to look for public art opportunities can start working on it, knowing that there's no budget for it?
So there are areas that have been identified in the original site plan for public art. It's not part of the design build, but there are areas that have been designated on the 30% design drawings for public art.
Can those get relayed to the Culture Arts Advisory Committee?
Yes.
Who is ELS? Thank you. Who is ELS?
ELS is the architect and Clarence is the principal with ELS that's here this evening.
And they're recommending that we hire a fundraising consultant?
No, they're not. This is, if you recall, that Swinnerton is our project construction manager. And knowing that we wanted to develop a very professional fundraising campaign, a company was referred to us that Swinnerton has used in the past on public buildings. And so we're retaining the services of this company to provide us with advice and a professional work plan to go solicit funding through a fundraising campaign.
Sorry, Mike. When the project manager talked about the patio, then leading to the grass, does that mean that that raised seating is gone and it's just going to be patio into the grass? I looked to me like the drawing still had the seating, but then it had the grass. Could someone explain that to me?
Yeah, I can offer a clarification on that. So yes, I think there was a time when we did have a bench, but at the end of the day, there were more folks interested in sort of continuing the plane of the patio across to basically get more seating capacity outdoors. And so that's where it ended up. But we think it's going to be really nice. We think that's a good change.
How do you get more seating? You mean more tables that you could put outside and you can then run the tables onto the grass as opposed to just having them? So you're thinking in terms of rentability, it improves the number of customers that could fit in the space.
Yeah, not only rentability, but just the programmability as well. I mean, for all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to necessarily be tables, but just the ability to have a larger flat area outdoors. That's what we were looking for.
I'm trying to absorb that this is a complete surprise and a complete difference of what we voted for multiple times and approved. So I hear you. I can see how it might make it better, but it's different. And in that area was one of the areas that was going to be public art, which now will not be public art. So that has taken away one of the public art areas, because that swale that was going to be a dry creek was an art opportunity, was in itself a change of just dry grass on there. I mean, obviously I have no say in this. I'm just really disappointed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Councilman Lee. Councilman Lee?
I'm trying to get this thing to work. Sorry about that. Got to find the unmute button. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the question, I have a few questions. What is the acoustic ceiling treatment? What is that?
So this is Clarence with the ELS. I can help with that. So the acoustical line item that you saw, that is for the interior of the building. Again, I believe it was set aside, I'll say, until we could finally determine exactly where the best acoustical and most acoustical treatment was required. And I say that because, again, we weren't quite sure how the city was going to use the classroom areas and how the seniors area was going to be used, as well as the office area. And we're starting to zero in on that, and we can soon fine tune that up.
So you're still fine tuning the acoustic ceilings?
Right.
So
it's considered, it's considered a finished material. So again, our goal here, as Jane was laying out, was to get the bones of the building set, which we actually have the structure now in for permit as of today, actually. And while all of that is being done, we're continuing to work with the city to fine tune the interiors of the project, and the acoustical treatment is part of that effort.
Okay. So what is the purpose of that big, the monolith in the front? Andrew, what is that achieving?
You have to go to the slides if you could. Is it in this image here?
Yeah, the one that was supposed to look like a faux chimney. What's the purpose of that?
Oh, this right here. So again, that was part of the original design, and it did continue through the roof, and it looked a little bit like a chimney. I heard at one time it was maybe considered an elevator and the elevator override. By the time we inherited the project, I mean, it was no longer an elevator and it certainly wasn't a chimney. But what it did do is it prevented us from using that entire roof area for solar collectors. And so by eliminating it, we were allowed to put up more solar collectors and achieve the net zero concept that City Manager Williams was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. So I'm fine with that. I think a while ago I just said, well, this kind of look better if we just had like a more glassy.
Oh, yeah.
Full look, because otherwise it just looks like it's just kind of like there, and it's a big monolith that just kinds of.
Right. No. I mean, I think we could have done a lot of those different things, but again, there was a concept that was set by Group 4, and I think we wanted to honor that. I think the community had sort of they liked that idea, and I think we found a way to make it all work. Again, by eliminating that piece off the top, that allowed us to spread out more solar collectors. So that was really the only change.
It's just a big wall. It's just a big masonry wall. That's all it is, right?
It's a couple of things. It's a masonry wall, but it's also the wall that kind of defines where the stairway is on the other side. So there's a stairway that wraps up against that. Yeah. So we get to anchor to that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, you hide a stairway. That's, I guess.
Yeah.
What else was I going to add? Okay. So the doors on the community room, the doors that open are on the sides, not in the center.
So why don't we go to one of the enlarged community room renderings? Yeah, that should work. So the doors between the two masonry areas, the two stone areas, the doors happen within that zone of the glass between that area. And there are 4 pairs of doors right now, and that's what we're looking at. It's and actually you can't, it's a little difficult to see exactly where the doors are in this picture, but you see the big horizontal line that splits the glass area right now. There you go. That's one set of doors right there. And then if you go over to the other side, there's another set of doors there.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking, I mean, thank you for moving the swell that was in front of the patio, because I think the patio would function as nicely as a makeshift stage for outdoors. So thank you for leveling it out. That's why I'm asking about the doors, because maybe it could be, you have a set of doors for the back of the stage sort of thing.
Right. So actually we have the doors on what would be either side of the stage. So that's why they're located where they are. And, for technical reasons, actually, you bring up a good point. The reason the bioretention swale was relocated, we needed to get it to a lower part of the site. And at the same time, again, create more usable area right off of the patio.
Yeah, I like that, and I like the fact that you have more windows. So I mean, so the whole roof line is all covered with solar panels. Is that right?
Yeah, we have just about maxed that out, with the exception of the area that we call it the mechanical equipment zone. There will be solar panels everywhere else.
Okay. So there's no need for skylighting or anything like that?
No, I think that's one of the nice things about this design. It's not a very wide building, so we get plenty of daylight in from just the windows alone, which again was one of the, as we were working with the design committee, I thought they raised some real good points about how they wanted to see larger windows so that we could get more daylight into the classrooms and other areas. And I think that's worked out well.
So we just passed a reach codes. Does that apply to this building, City Manager Williams?
It certainly does.
It does, yes.
Yes.
All right. So are you prepared to put in heat pumps?
Yeah, in fact, that is our system. We're totally up to speed on all of that. And we have the latest, but we have to essentially meet, the current code. So that's what's in place is what we're working towards.
Okay. Who were in the subcommittee? It was Councilmember Pappen and the mayor and former Mayor Quigg. Who else was? Is it Kiefer
and Commissioner Del Negro?
Oh, Del Negro. Okay. Well, I just want to thank you all for, and staff for all the work you've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years. It's it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think I think it's a good. I think it is a good compromise. I kind of like the natural feel of the building, a little bit more woods and bricks. I mean, not bricks, but stone veneer. So I think that gives it a little bit more natural feel. And I'm okay with what it is. It's never going to be perfect for everybody. It's not perfect for me either. So, but I think I just want to thank all the staff and everybody involved, Clarence and as well as Swinnerton, for getting us this far. So there's still, and then I just want to make sure that we start getting on the donation thing as quickly as possible to give the Lions Club, for instance, or the Rotary Club, and a community foundation more opportunity and more time to raise money for the community center. And I think they would really appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Lee. And again, these changes are pretty minor in terms of compared to what was presented to the council a couple months ago. It's the same building shape, building envelope, the same layout. It's really just a bit more glazing and some more stonework as well around the facade to enhance it. The faux chimney, I think, was a nice architectural feature. It looked nice, but if we need to remove it to maximize the solar capacity of the roof line of the roof, then we need to do that if it prevents us from having to install solar panels on the parking lot or somewhere else. Okay, let's go to Councilwoman Oliva.
Thank you. So thank you everybody that worked so hard on this project and making these tweaks. I think that a lot of my questions have been answered. Councilmember Lee had asked about some of the things that I was a little bit questioning in my head, but I'd like to think of it not so much as modern as state of the art. I mean, this is like pretty darn nice, and I appreciate everything. Sorry, you guys know that that's going to happen here. I really appreciate everything that is moving forward with the reach concept, with the solar, and it's going to be pretty amazing. I was going to say one comment for council comment, but I'm going to say it now, that the senior advisory committee is really excited about watching everything live, and they've had a really good time with that. So thanks for putting that up online for them, and allowing them to watch the demo, and hopefully pretty soon watch the building be built. So again, I just want to emphasize, my questions have been answered, but emphasize how grateful I am for the hard work that went into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Oliva. And one other comment, the all-electric design of this building actually predated our reach codes. It goes back to the Group 4 design a couple of years ago. So thank you to Group 4 for having that foresight, and to ELS and Block for continuing to do that and to maintain that design even before knowing our reach codes that were going to be approved here in Millbrae. Okay, Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the subcommittee had difficulty keeping things within the budget here. So a lot of the things we're seeing here were modifications to help keep everything in line for the budget here. As far as the windows go there, we didn't want them to look like prison windows, which were the long and narrow ones that were presented previously. Clarence, can you describe, you're kind of missing the terrace on the front as you go around the corner there. Can you get back? I think it's slide 3. Because that was something that group 4 left out of their design, was that corner leading to the childcare. Yes, in there. Can you elaborate a little more on that? It's kind of, you don't get much of a perspective from that rendering. And we can't hear you.
Jane, if you could go up to the last, the final slide of the design section that showed the Lincoln Avenue. And before you click on it, well, that's okay. You can go, if you can go back to that one for a moment, and then I'm gonna just do it. So the thing to look at here is there's a trellis piece that is actually starting to form a covered walkway. And what it does is at the auto drop-off area here, you can see the trellis start. It then lands on a couple of vertical supports, turns the corner and goes down Lincoln Avenue. So now let's go to the Lincoln Avenue image.
Maybe Jane can point to that so people can see it.
Right. So Jane, if you could point to right where it turns the corner there, right there. So this trellis piece, we added that in. It continues all the way down to the daycare entrance. And we thought that was a big plus that came out of all of this. So now we have a covered walkway for parents who are dropping off their kids. They're walking them to daycare. And there's a real clear, and it's a nice route to the entrance of the daycare area. So not only does it kind of adds another layer to the building. I think Councilmember Pappen, she said it best by just, again, sort of pushing us to add more layers of interest on the building. And I think this was one of those, and it came out nicely. And again, I think this elevation also shows that we took those windows that were very narrow. I hate to say it, but as Councilmember Pappen said, prison-like, and those have been expanded. I mean, they're more than twice the size. And I think they're going to bring in a lot of very nice natural light into the art studio, into the daycare area, as well as to the office area.
And Clarence, this is Tom Weeks. Another element that you did that's hard to see on this is you added that cornice, which will create more depth at the top of the roof.
Right. There's a little more treatment there. You know, there was a question also about the trash area and sort of the service area. And we actually have a screen wall that it's a little difficult to read in this drawing here, but we have a screened area where temporary trash bins are going to kind of be in holding. So they'll never be seen by the public. They'll be behind a screen wall that is all part of the architecture. And then once they're full, those carts are then wheeled over to the trash bin area. So we've been aware of that. We know that we have a little service area there, and we want to be real careful, especially along the Lincoln Circle side, not to expose any of the service area.
So 2 more questions here, Clarence. So we had talked about the roof line there where you made some definition. And I'm not sure, we had talked about making that darker to make it a more formal roof line, whether it was just, you know, a paint or texture color. We didn't really get to that point. So I'd be curious to see what it would look like if that were, as you go around the corner from the front all the way to the back there. So
Okay, well, actually, I think we have that, and I thought we shared that, but maybe not. But I'll tell you what, I know that we've done it. And I think what we liked was that sort of the top and bottom border of that area, that those became darker. And we thought that maybe that was enough. But we also have it where it's all dark. It just felt a little heavy to us. But I'll send that over to Tom so he can share it with everybody.
Okay, and then I think the Vice Mayor was talking about the bench in the back. I thought we had still left that, but coming off the grand room, it's kind of a wall / bench. I thought we had left that in.
Right. So not too long ago, we were having, again, some programming request had come up to see if we could continue to have a flat area that, was at the same elevation as the patio. And so the bench started to block that. And so we removed the bench in favor of.
That did not go before the subcommittee. If the programming people came up with that, I don't believe that was ever presented to the subcommittee.
Okay.
So
it was not.
It was not. See, the mayor's there too. So that was kind of a surprise.
Okay, why don't you, if you could get us to this, I'm sorry, we're using my cursor and you can't even see it. Jane, could you go to the site plan? Because I think that shows it best. And it shows, so again, we can add the bench back in, or maybe it's a modified bench. Maybe it's a bench that doesn't go all the way across. But the idea was that we were trying to extend more flat area. And so that bright green area is lawn that you could actually walk out onto, you could dance on, you could do yoga on, just a number of things. So we're just trying to increase that area. If that is not a desire, then we could run the bench straight across, I suppose. Whatever you guys would like.
I think we need to go back to the discussion regarding that, because we had envisioned the grand room there as coming outside for entertaining as well. We had talked about lighting the base of the wall / bench for evenings and things like that. I don't think, as a safety measure, if that's being used during the evenings, that we want people, walking off into the lawn or into the park, that kind of thing. So I think we have to get back to that discussion, because that was not brought before the subcommittee. And so that has to be discussed.
Can I comment about that?
Well, I think it was designed to be somewhat of a barrier, for private events to keep the people from wandering in. But go ahead. Yes, Mr. Councilman Lee.
I appreciate the thought about the benches and the safety protocols, but I mean, we can also make it a movable, like bollards. We can take them out for events where we're having like a showcase event, a stage type of event, or we can put them back in to separate. I don't think benches is going to separate anybody from going to an area. You're going to have to put bigger partitions, but would you consider making the benches kind of an item where you can move and put back, so you can maximize the space for performance arts?
Okay, Councilmember Lee, let me just back up for a second. So it was more presented as a beautiful kind of half wall. They could be, again, it maintained the integrity of whoever was using the grand room. The tables could be put outside. We pictured lighting out there, all of that. So this is a change that was not brought before the subcommittee. So I appreciate your comments here, but we're going to have to discuss that further.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I'm not saying you shouldn't put lighting and all the other stuff. I'm just asking that you if you're gonna put benches there, then you're going to take away the opportunity for performance art, for kind of, you know, amphitheater type of look.
Mayor?
But you know, you could always put the benches back. What I'm saying is I would recommend making the benches movable.
Again, it wasn't a bench. That's all I was trying to clarify.
Mayor, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, it was sort of a like maybe a 3-foot high or so wall around the patio that sort of provided a barrier for people who were there in a private event. But go ahead, Vice Mayor Schneider. So you had your hand up.
The alternative, not knowing the level of programming that I guess you guys are talking about, if this patio is going to have tables on it during the good weather months, so basically 9 months out of the year, there's a place for people to just walk by and sit. If there aren't tables, if those tables are only there for special events, then that half wall, that pony wall, created a sitting area. It created a place for teenagers to sit and hang out and be in full view under cameras, so we don't have fires again. But it would give them a place to hang out. If you really want that space to become dual programmable, be able to move tables out there, there are bench concepts that are art in themselves. And that would probably go under FF&E. It would have to be fundraised for, but there are some pretty incredible benches that have lovely style that could be semi-movable. They're not light, because if they're light, they're going to end up thrown around the park. But it's just another option on there. I don't know how during the week you were planning on this space being used, or was it going to become a holiday weekend event site if you don't have seating there?
No, that's a good comment. If it is walled off, then it would be basically dead space if there isn't an event going on, right? So
it could go either way on how that space is going to be used on the times when hopefully we're not renting for a wedding or an anniversary or something. Also, to go back to Councilwoman Pappin's comment about the cornice on the west side of the building, from that one picture that you showed, the community room had a darker trim. It was also narrower. And then the other building had a much wider cornice, which again, to me, made it look 1960s prison-like. A narrower cornice that's darker might serve both purposes. Keep the distance there. It's the other picture. It's the Lincoln Circle picture that shows it. The cornice that you put in is fairly thick. Right there. If you thin the cornice, and it might reflect what it looks like also the dark cornice on the community center, and tie in the two parts of the building instead of one looking like it does and the other one looking very square and one at least having a slight slope to it. You'd have some connectivity. But I like the idea of a slightly darker top up there. To me, that wall, we talked about the trellis quite a while ago, just how big that flat space was, and frankly, how the people at Lincoln Circle would be looking at a blank wall. So at least the trellis breaks up the blank wall. It does take away an art opportunity.
Okay, so we've received a lot of comments from the council, and I think, you know, in terms of the key elements of the design, the stonework, the glazing, Mr. Miamick, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are items that need to be decided pretty quickly, whereas maybe the trim around the top of the building, the wall on the patio, those are I think fairly minor and maybe can be tweaked, you know, later on. What do you think in terms of the timing of the building, and what at this point needs to be set in stone and what can potentially be tweaked down the line?
Mayor, I think you hit it on the head. So The cornice line, we'll do some color studies on that. I think that's really just a color change on the stucco. So that's really easy to do. And the bench, I think that whole bench area, if the committee would like to convene again, maybe we'll roll out a few ideas for that, including the one with just a bench straight across, and that's fine too. And again, all of those can happen independent of the permit documents that were submitted today for the structure. So we're in good shape there.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, do we have any, let's ask, is there any public comment on this item? Any members of the public would like to speak? Please use the raised hand feature. You can also call in through using the instructions on the agenda on the city website. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment on this item. So I think that is a good direction to take to move forward with these design changes, but with a little bit of flexibility on some of the more minor items that probably will not have a significant impact on the project budget. So do we have a motion to approve?
Is this informational, supposed to be informational, or what are we approving? Did money?
I believe it is an action item because it does affect the project budget.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
It's an action item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilwoman Oliva and a second from Councilwoman Pappen. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
If I may, I just want to verify the motion is to approve the final building exterior design with amendments, or?
No, it's just to approve the funding.
There's no amendment. No, if I may, Mayor, no, it is the design that's presented as well as the change order for the budget contingency.
With also ELS to come back with a couple of options to continue working with us on both the roof line and the patio area.
Correct.
All right, so it's for the budget and change order, and then for ELS to bring back the final building exterior design. Okay.
Correct.
So
to continue to work with the city on the roof line and the patio design and patio wall design.
If I can just add a teeny clarification, maybe.
Go ahead.
How about the color of the parapet at the classroom building and the patio design?
Okay, I'm amenable to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there was a motion from Councilwoman Oliva and a second from Councilwoman Pappen. Is that correct? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Pappen,
Yes.
Councilmember Oliva,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Snyder,
A very unhappy yes.
Mayor Halliburtt.
Aye.
Okay. The City Council unanimously approved by motion to the final building exterior design to continue work with the ELS for the color and the color of the parapet of the classroom and patio design and budget change order.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now we will move to item 7. This is the motion to adopt a resolution making draft findings and declaring it intent to consider overriding the San Mateo City County Association of Governments Airport Land Use Committee determination of inconsistency regarding the proposed zoning text amendment to the Millbrae Stationary Specific Plan to allow with a conditional use permit for biotech uses in the TOD zone portion south of Millbrae Avenue. So it looks like we have a presentation here, and our Community and Economic Development Director, Darcy Smith.
Yes.
And Nestor de Guevara.
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Darcy Smith. I'm the city's Community Development Director. I'm introducing this item. This is for item 7, which is consideration of the resolution for the draft findings and declaring the official intent to consider overruling the CCAG of San Mateo County ALUC Committee determination of inconsistency, specifically regarding a fairly narrow zoning text amendment related to the Millbrae Stationary Specific Plan for specific biotechnology uses. And the staff presentation will be made by Nestor Guevara, who's the assistant planner for the city and the project manager. And after this presentation, we're available to answer any questions, along with the city manager and city attorney, who also contributed to this report and presentation. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Darcy, and good evening, everyone. I'll just jump straight into it. So just to give a bit of a background, on the project, the MSASP, the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan Update, was adopted by the City Council back in January 2016. It guides future developments in the area surrounding the Millbrae Station, and it supports development through the creation of 5 planning zones and 1 overlay zone that have a mix of uses. This map here just shows the location of the specific plan area. The red dashed line here, that's the boundary of the plan area. And then here where it's those blocks in red, that's the Caltrain / BART station for Millbrae. Like I mentioned, the MSASP creates a series of various planning zones. These are the transit-oriented development zone, the residential mixed use, employment center, light industrial, retail commercial, public facilities, and then the residential overlay. Each zone then allows a specific mix of land uses, and these are either permitted by right or through a conditional use permit. These can be found on table 5.1. And then this map here shows the different planning zones in the MSASP. You'll see that the TOD zone here is just around the Millbrae BART Caltrain station. So the proposed specific plan amendment, it's an amendment to table 5.1. Table 5.1 shows the permitted and conditionally permitted land uses among the different zones. So the amendment would allow, with an approval of a conditional use permit, the following: biotechnology scientific labs, tech biotech product assembly, and tech biotech component manufacturing uses only in the TOD zone portion that's south of Millbrae Avenue. The proposed specific plan amendment would also, we would also amend footnote 4 to read light industrial facilities and safety compatibility zone 2 of the airport land use compatibility plan may include hazardous uses up to biosafety level 2. And then we would also add footnote 6, which specifies that the biotech uses would be allowed through a conditional use permit and specifically in the TOD zone portion south of Millbrae Avenue. And then this map here shows specifically where the amendment zone or the portion of the TOD zone that we're proposing to be amended is in this box over here, the red dashed line. So you see it's just south of Millbrae Ave, and then Rollins Road is right here. The Millbrae TOD zone is an airport land use compatibility plan safety zone 2. The amendment would also conditionally permit light industrial facilities in safety zone 2 to include uses up to biosafety level 2. Currently in safety zone 2, we allow it up to biosafety level 1. And here in this graph on the right, you'll see the different biosafety levels, from 1 here at the bottom being a more low risk to biosafety level 4 being higher risk. And biosafety level 2 is the one we're proposing to be allowed in safety zone 2. Biosafety level 2 includes clinical, diagnostic, teaching, and other laboratories working with indigenous moderate risk agents that are already present in the community. So things like the common cold, flu, salmonella, Lyme disease, that sort of stuff. Safety zone 2 is designated along the extended center line of each runway, beginning at the outer edge of the runway protection zone. So here on the right side, here on the map, I'm hovering kind of over the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan, and that's also safety zone 2. And then a little further up here to the right, you'll see where I'm hovering now with the clicker or with the arrow. That's the runways. So safety zone 2, it's an area of secondary risk that tends to be overflown by most aircraft arrivals and departures of each runway end. Safety compatibility criteria are generally based on the guidelines provided in the California Airport Land Use Planning Handbook. And just to give some examples, other prohibited uses in safety zone 2 include larger assemblies with 300 or more people, hospitals, or critical public utilities. Some of the reasons for the amendment that we're proposing: property owner interest to redevelop the sites with biotech use. There's a lot of biotech that's already been successful in the peninsula, in the San Francisco Bay Area Peninsula. Biotech demand is high during this economic climate, and it's forecast to kind of still be of high use. And it would help support the city's fiscal sustainability during the COVID pandemic. It supports revitalization and redevelopment of the aging commercial properties, and it supports build out around the specific plan area. And it can also aid in the city's economic development through the creation of jobs in the biotech and research field. So now a bit of a timeline of kind of the public meeting stuff we've had to this point, where we are now, and where we would be going from here. The Planning Commission held a public hearing where they adopted a resolution recommending City Council approval for the override that passed back in August 17th of this year. After that, the proposed amendment was taken to the Airport Land Use Commission. They held a public meeting on October 22nd, and they determined the proposed amendment to be consistent with the San Francisco Airport Land Use Plan. The CCAG Board of Directors then upheld that ALUC determination during their November 12th Board of Directors meeting. And then here we are, City Council meeting to consider draft findings and to direct staff to file the intent to overrule that consistency determination made by the ALUC. And a future meeting would be required for City Council to provide final approval of the MSASP amendments and the final findings, as well as the override. And that would be on a date that's yet to be determined, but it would be sometime in early 2021. So any proposed land use policy action, including a amendment to a specific plan within a specified area of the airport influence area, must be submitted to the ALUC for consistency determination. As I mentioned during the timeline slide, the Airport Land Use Committee did review the proposed amendment during their October 22nd meeting, and they found it to be inconsistent with the Airport Land Use Plan. And this decision was then reviewed and approved by the CCAG Board of Directors during their November 12th meeting, acting as the San Mateo County Airport Land Use Commission. There is a process through which the city can overrule the consistency determination. Public Utilities Code Section 21676 allows the City Council to override a determination of the ALUC with the following steps. A public meeting to consider overriding the ALUC's action, which would be the meeting that we're holding tonight. An adoption of specific findings, and you'll find the draft findings in your packet as attachment number 2. Specific findings of the proposed action is consistent with the purposes of the Airport Land Use Commission statutes, and an approval overriding the ALUC's determination by at least a 2/3 majority votes, which would be 4 yeses from our City Council members. And that would be during a later, a future City Council meeting. Just some of the draft findings for the overrule that again you have in your packets is attachment 2. Biosafety level 2 does not authorize respiratory or aerosolized agents, therefore it does not present a materially greater risk to public safety than level 1 activities. The ALUCP presently authorizes level 2 uses in the employment center light industrial zone that's just south of the TOD zone, just across the street. A risk is much lower than is reflected in the safety zone maps of the ALUCP, because the runway that kind of corresponds to where our TOD zone is actually only used for 2 to 5% of landings, and it's not used for takeoffs. It's for landings, and it's only 2 to 5% according to the airport. The amendment The
I'm
amendment.
sorry, Mayor, do you want me to hold? That's just an incorrect statement. The use of 19 and 1. When I can hold off on that, but
yeah, if you could please hold off until after the presentation.
Okay.
And I'll let you go first. Okay. All right, thanks.
So the amendment will minimize the public's exposure to safety hazards to the extent feasible through the use permit process, the conditional use permit process, which would allow the city regulation. The amendment offers city increased flexibility to accommodate the uses in demand, especially in light of future office space demand being maybe altered through or because of the COVID pandemic. And the amendment can really aid in the city's economic development through job creation and then maintaining occupancy in the area. Kind of some next steps. The city would provide notice of intent to consider the override to the ALUC and Caltrans Aeronautics Division, starting a 45-day period. The ALUC and Caltrans would then have a 30-day period to respond to the city's notice of intent. The CCAC Board of Directors would take an action to receive the resolution at one of their public meetings. And then the city council would finally then take final action on an override with final findings and the MSASP amendment in a future meeting. So with that said, staff is recommending that the city council adopt a resolution making draft findings and declaring intent to consider overruling the CCAC of San Mateo County Airport Land Use Committee determination of inconsistency regarding the proposed zoning text amendment to the Millbrae State, to the MSASP, to allow with a conditional use permit the biotech uses in the portion of the TOD zone located south of Millbrae Avenue. And with that, city staff is available for questions, as well as our legal counsel through Mike Cochran is here as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Guevara, and our planning and legal counsel for working on this. Vice Mayor Schneider, you had a comment on one of the slides?
A couple. First of all, staff completely in support of this. And I read through everything, but a couple of questions. The first one was, has Burlingame at all contacted us about the use or the siting of a BioSafe 2 facility close by where they're planning on building a lot of housing? I'm just curious if Burlingame has reached out to us.
Vice Mayor, they have not.
Okay. Number 2, and Mr. Guevara, sorry for correcting you on this. If you could go back to the slide where you listed runway 19 left, right. Having served on Airport Roundtable for a number of years now, and I kind of live, eat, and breathe this stuff. So about 15% of the flights arriving or departing from SFO either arrive on 1 or arrive on 19 or depart on 1 and depart on 19. And I'm happy to help you guys get the right number. The 2 to 5% of landings might be correct for airplanes that are landing, coming in over the bay and landing, heading towards Millbrae, but by far more flights actually fly right over us down Millbrae Avenue to land on what's considered a one-way, 1 arrival on that. So your numbers are a little bit off here. I don't want any entity outside of us to use our inaccuracies as an excuse to say no. So please let me help you make sure that we're accurate. The other thing that you should keep in mind with the increase in fires around California and the particulates that seem to be building up in the Bay Area, they're concentrating between San Bruno Mountain and the mountains behind us. And when that happens, every time that has happened, more flights are actually arriving on 19. It's one of the security precautions they put in, depending on where the fires are in Northern California. So just be aware of that. Other than that, please fix the use of runway 19 and runway 1 arrival departures. And anything I can do to help with this. I think the other category, just so the public knows, a category 2 is also HIV, correct? It wasn't on the chart, but I did some research and HIV is the other category. So let's just make sure we're being as above board as we can be. So just
Mr. Mayor, if I can address some of the Vice Mayor's comments real quick
Sure,
here. So this is data that we've received from SFO. And the intent here is the impact of this land use change in this zone to be consistent with the airport land use plan. And so I think it is important to be on the record that the impact of this site is not for takeoffs. The risk is for that 2 to 5% landing. And that is specific data that we've received from the airport. So
And they didn't
yeah,
give
there
you
may
the
be
correct-
speculation. There may be speculation that it's higher, but I want to say for the record, this is the correct information. We will go back and
City
verify
manager,
that.
city manager, I look at this data all the time.
This is an intent. This is a land use decision on the intent to override a decision, the airport land use plan, and making the finding that the intent of that land use plan is being achieved. And we believe it is, in our professional opinion. And so the other things that you had mentioned, Vice Mayor, even though it may have merit relative to this land use change, I think that, you know, we need to stay focused on this particular finding of fact that for the record.
Then let me ask for clarification, city manager. They're concerned about airplanes arriving over the bay that may overrun the runway and crash into the building? Or are they concerned about
Directly overhead, right?
the
It's
planes
when the ship
arriving, let me finish, the planes arriving over the mountains, coming down Millbrae Avenue and Mills Estates and arriving on runway 1?
That is correct.
But what you're using here is runway 19. It's a different approach.
Yeah, I'm looking at a map right now.
Yeah,
Looks like runway 1 is the arrival, is the southwest side of that.
Correct.
Runway 19 is the northeast side going over the bay.
No, the runway 1 left and right are anytime a plane is coming from Millbrae and going out over the bay. Runway 19 is anytime a plane is coming in over the bay and heading towards Millbrae, whether it's an arrival or a departure. So
it should be runway 1 then. It should be the one that we're.
I think that's great. If we can have Nestor go back to the plan, it will show. But I think you are correct, Vice Mayor. I mean, obviously, if there's arrivals over the bay, it has no impact on this. So it's really irrelevant.
Which, to be honest, is why I thought it was funny that we were quoting 19 arrivals, 19 departures. That's something else.
Yeah, I apologize. I think
it's
this
more
is
runway 1 arrivals.
I think this is a typo. I think you are correct. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know that my years of sitting through those meetings is worth something.
Okay.
Thank you. And I believe you also had a question about Burlingame, and City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we discussed that biotech safety level 2 is allowed in that portion of Burlingame off of Rollins Road. Is that correct? Very close to the Millbrae border.
Yeah, this is a great map. Even in the city of Millbrae, if you can see where on this heading, the Millbrae Stationary Specific Plan, where the word plan is, that's in the city of Millbrae and it's allowed there. And if you just go to the left of that, to the dark purple area, you can see that less than 2 blocks away, biotech level 2 is allowed without any reservation or without any review. So that is correct. But we have not received any input from Burlingame for a specific use for biotech, but it is allowed.
Through the mayor, the blood bank also used to be on the corner of Adrian and Rollins Road, and that would have had some level. I don't know what that level would have been, but they were a biotech facility.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, that is just right outside the line.
I know.
That is, yeah.
I know. I looked at it and I see what they're trying to do in how the airport land use committee raked it out.
All right.
But it's right there.
So if we can go back and make sure we have the correct the runway and make sure double check those statistics, make sure we're accurate before finalizing these findings. Yes, Mr.
Yeah, I've researched this. I'm just reading from the SFO website. There's basically there's 3, but there's really 2 main plans. One is used approximately 95% of the time. The other is used between 2 to 5% of the time. Under the normal operations, departures use runways 1L and 1R to the north. In other words, they start near Millbrae, they go north, off that runway that,
over the bay,
that ends in Millbrae. Primary arrivals come in from the west on 28L, 28R. 2 to 5% of the time, this is the SFO website, they operate on the reverse flow or the southeast plan. Primary arrivals are on runways 19L and R. They face south, and those are the ones that the airport's concerned about because they come and they end up at the end of the runway that's near Millbrae. The concern would be a plane overshooting the runway on a landing. Our point is that that only occurs 2 to 5% of the time based on the airport statistics. They were at least one, I think both of the meetings in which these statistics were presented and raised no objection to them. And then during that time, they take off on the other runway. So I think those statistics are correct. They're taken directly from SFO's website.
All right, let's just make sure we double, triple check that
Yeah, we
before
will.
putting
Okay.
everything out.
All right.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go to Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things that weren't mentioned that help our argument here. The PG&E high-powered wires that are already there. So if we're talking that this rezoning would be a lower risk, I think you have to describe the existing risk. In addition to that, I don't think we've ever mentioned the crunch pads, which exist at SFO, which basically stop a plane in its tracks. I don't know why we don't get the benefit of that either. So I tried to argue this as best I could at the CCAG meeting. The airport land use plan is out of date. I'm hoping they change it, but I hope we can move this ahead and get on with it as quickly as possible here. I think our risk is exceptionally low in this area and would be extremely beneficial to our economic recovery without increasing any risk whatsoever to our public or the airport. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for those comments. Let's see, Councilwoman Oliva.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for clarifying that. That's exactly what was presented at the Airport Land Use Committee. And all of your arguments have been heard there. This is a perfect check and balance system by which we should be very proud of. And yes, if you do the overlay, we are just outside it. And as has been stated already, just nearly across the street from basically what is allowable. I just want to, I don't think of this, Councilmember Pappen, as much as an argument, but as a safety factor for all of us. And yes, it can be overridden, and it has, I know South San Francisco has had the same particulars most recently. When it was presented to the Airport Land Use Committee, and I did ask for an exception for this for our city, we did have not a majority, but we did have some support for this. So I would speak in favor of this exception and hope that we can go forward with this. But just as long as everything is transparent and everybody's done their job. And I think this is a perfect example of everybody taking precautions for all of us.
Okay.
Do you need a motion, Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
For the record, yeah, South San Francisco is a completely different story. Their risk is exceptional, I think, but I'm glad to see we're pursuing this on our city. Thank you.
I might disagree with the exceptional part.
I just have a question. This might be veering off topic a little bit, but it was mentioned that in Safety Zone 2, there are other land uses that are not allowed, such as convention centers and hospitals and other type of uses. Let's say down the road, as part of the west side of the MSASP, as that gets developed. I know there have been discussions about having a hotel on the west side of the station. If that hotel were to include something like a banquet room or a conference center, could that also be potentially over, assuming that that would be denied by the Airport Land Use Committee, would the same process apply to something like that?
could,
where the
yes.
city could overrule those findings, overrule
could.
those. Okay.
Yes.
So this
and
could potentially be a tool that we use for other land uses within the MSASP to, make sure that the station area is built out in a way that's beneficial to the city.
Correct. So just 2 points. One is city could take advantage of this overruling procedure that's right in state law. This is how you do something other than what's in that airport land use plan. Is you make these findings, circulate them. They're going to go out with the airport and the or the land use commission, and this Caltrans has a Department of Aeronautics. They get 30 days to provide us comments, and the city can do the overrule. The other thing is sort of what I think Councilmember Pappen and Councilmember Oliva have alluded to, and that is when the Airport Land Use Commission goes to redo its land use plan, we could ask them to perhaps consider the fact that there's so much less traffic on this particular runway that perhaps using the same template of safety compatibility zones is perhaps not appropriate. I think that's a larger policy question. One final kind of lawyer point. There is a liability angle to this. It doesn't directly affect the city, but basically it says if a city overrules a land use commission restriction, then the airport is absolved of liability if that fact that overruling results in additional, liability, risk, damage. They would have some immunity. Doesn't mean the city has more immunity. It does take away one of the potential targets of litigation, but still probably have the airlines, everything else. But the airport itself would be gets an immunity. So that's the downside to this procedure. Obviously, it'd be better if the land use plan just allowed it. Then you don't have to go through this, and it wouldn't apply. But
understood.
That's the whole story.
Yes, and what I read in the Daily Journal regarding the South San Francisco development is that as part of that liability, that can be taken on by the developer or the property owner, right, and not necessarily by the city itself, right?
Well, the city could ask to be indemnified from additional liability. We will take that up.
So I imagine that would be done when developments or applications are submitted for biotech in this area.
Part of the conditional use permit negotiations, I'm sure.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you for that clarification, for all the work on this. I should ask if there's any public comment on this item. If so, please use the raised hand feature or the call-in instructions. Okay, another second. All right, seeing none, public comment is closed on this item. Do we have a motion?
Mayor?
Go ahead, yes, Vice Mayor
Just
Schneider.
two things to consider. 15% of the flights arrive over Millbrae on runway 1 arrivals, regardless of what the airport says. On a bad winter, it's more than that. The reason that they've been stricter on residential areas is noise issues. What ALEC and the SFO roundtable really look at is the noise and the impact on people. And I guess if we were to do it, then there would be absolutely no mitigation for it. But I have been arguing at the roundtable that 15% of flights arriving over Millbrae is a significant source of particulate pollution over our neighborhoods, and that the roundtable needs to start looking at emissions as well as noise. So what might be good on one side could hurt or could help on both sides. Hard to say. But South San Francisco and the movie theater housing project in San Bruno, they're both housing and tend to get a harder look because it's people living there. And I'm happy to make a motion to approve as staff with just double checking SFO's data.
Mr. Mayor, if I may jump in here real quick, I think as Councilmember Pappen indicated and as the Vice Mayor is saying, and I don't know, I'd look to the city attorney to see if this is appropriate. But when Councilmember Pappen was at CCAG and really, put forth the argument in terms of meeting the intent and land use compatibility, she had recommended that CCAG update the airport land use plan. So if it's appropriate, maybe we can get consensus from the city council this evening as part of the motion to also direct a formal letter to CCAG requesting that they update the 2012 airport land use plan. I think that would address what the vice mayor is talking about, as well as some of these other issues.
I think the vice mayor approves. I'll second with those amendments, and also say that thank you, staff, for putting this up, and Vice Mayor Snyder and Councilwoman Oliva for the update. I think that was very important information. And thank you, Councilwoman Pappen, for continuing to advocate for us at CCAG. A lot of times they don't get it right. So it's very important that we all together work together for our city, and I'm very glad my colleagues do that. So I second the motion.
All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Yes.
Councilmember Oliva,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Snyder,
Aye.
Mayor Halber.
Aye.
Thank you. The City Council unanimously accept the draft findings and direct staff to notice the ALUC and Caltrans Division of Aeronautics of the city's intent to overrule the consistency determination.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will now move on to council comments.
Consent calendar, Mayor.
Did we skip over the consent?
We
did.
did.
No, that was already approved, wasn't it?
Yeah, we approved it.
Okay, I'm really loopy.
Yeah, I believe we already approved that.
Because I had told Tom I was pulling agenda item 6. I'll just put it in my council comments.
Okay. All right. Let's go now to council comments, and let's begin with Councilman Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, the ABAG, at ABAG, they discussed the RENA numbers, the regional needs housing allocations number methodology, and I'm sure Councilwoman Pappen can, on her MTC, as the MTC rep for the county, she can help elaborate as well. There's also a tool, I'm pretty sure that the staff, do you know about the tool that ABAG is grants and the tool they're providing to help figure out the RENA numbers and stuff like that? Darcy? Anyway, so that's available, and I hope that staff takes advantage to that. And then again, the final numbers will be decided early next year, and I will be off the Associated Bay Area governments since I'm terming out. That's too bad, because Millbrae, as a small city, held one of the two most important seats in the Bay Area, and we have to give up one. So that's one of the I mean, bad things about term limits. I mean, term limits is good for its purpose times, but this time I think it really hurts Millbrae. So and then the PCE, there was a big discussion about including nuclear power from the nuclear industry into this their power label. And so there was a huge discussion, and actually I should let the vice mayor, because she was there. Sorry, Vice Mayor. I forgot you were there.
It was your last meeting. Go ahead, Wayne.
No, I was there as a spectator. Vice Mayor was there for the as the primary representative. So I'll let her finish that discussion. And so there is still, I think there's still a grant money for emergency batteries for seniors or people with medical devices that needs electricity, and it's for the purpose of people who experience blackouts, so then they can still run their medical devices. So please check out Peninsula Clean Energy. And we added Los Baños, the city of Los Baños, to PCE. which is pretty exciting. City of Los Baños is where PCE spent $500 million or committed $500 million to build a solar farm there, which was a big vote for me. I'll tell you that much. I never spent $500 million before. So definitely a highlight. And what else? So that's pretty much it. I think I'll let my colleagues follow up. And thanks again. And I hope to have a few more comments at my last meeting.
Thank you very much, Councilman Lee. And you're not letting you off the hook that quickly. We do have a special meeting next week, so don't forget about that. Okay, Vice Mayor Schneider, would you like to go next and continue the PCE discussion?
Okay, I'm trying to remember how the final vote went because there were multiple votes. Basically, they were looking at the power mixture that PCE has to have and what it would cost. And looking at, and this is energy that we will never use, but you have to purchase or have a purchase order. Just
resource adequacy, is that what it is?
Correct. It's like that. I don't have my notes in front of me and I was filling in for Wayne. So I think what happened is if we didn't include nuclear, it could cost our ratepayers between $1 and $10 million. So ultimately, as much as I am not a fan of nuclear power, I voted for this to do the mixture with the 10 million, to use nuclear to avoid our ratepayers having to pay between $1 and $10 million, especially during these economic times, knowing that we won't use it. But it was a big discussion, and it's a tricky one on there. And Councilman Lee, I think I'm not sure our seniors would qualify because Millbrae has yet to be a public safety power shutoff city, and I think that's still the criteria. But that's definitely something we should be checking into. So I think there's going to be quite a few new PCE board members come the new year with changes in other city councils. With the BRIC assignment, this is more to staff. When I read through the consent calendar, there's a lot of issues you're going to be looking at for sea level rise that have bearing on work that we're doing with the SFO noise roundtable, but specifically with the ground-based noise issues. So for example, where SFO is putting its berm or where the berms may go may have bearing on any kind of mitigation we might do for the low frequency noise. We're just today, thank you to Darcy Smith for sending our new building data to the airport consultant, where they're doing a modeling project to figure out where low frequency noise is moving, and they need all the buildings so that we can try to figure out where noise bounces. So it was great that staff provided that data very quickly. The study is starting tomorrow, and in it, it will look at land along 101, along SFO's property on the west of 101, as well as everything kind of around the airport. So I would hope to be looped into anything that happens from BRIC so that I can make sure that it's coordinating with everything we're trying to do to mitigate low frequency noise. With that, I also, as the vice mayor, and Mayor, I'm sorry, this might be a semi-long item, but we gave the awards for our longstanding staff, and my cat will get off my paper. I have a number of congratulations to staff. The city manager reminded me to do this. So to congratulate our staff who've just celebrated their 5-year anniversaries, we have Sam Fielding, a planner with community development. We'll know Sam for having worked on the Moxie Hotel, the ADUs, and I can't read my own notes. Another thank you to Jeffrey Gabriel. He was already earlier mentioned tonight. He's a recreation coordinator. He's one of the people who worked on all the adult recreation programs. I know him as our staff person for Millbrae Culture Arts, where he was hugely helpful for the Japanese Cultural Festival and the origami. He was the staff along with Mackenzie for the movie nights, for Halloween, and for the candy giveaway on that. So thank you, Jeffrey and his daughter, who gave up their entire Halloween to come to Millbrae and help us. Congratulations to Rose Velia in Public Works. Congratulations too on her getting her Master's of Public Administration while working full-time with the city, and for her work in helping us do all of the COVID-19 adaptation. She's an admin assistant and has just celebrated her 5th year. Also Charmaine Wright with Public Works. Most of us will know Charmaine. She is that smiling face at the Public Works window when we used to get to go into City Hall, always telling us where to go, what information we need to get. Congratulations, Charmaine. Now we had 5 people celebrate 50 years with the city. John Royhus, senior maintenance with Public Works, works in this term called collections division. Tom, please correct me. That means sewage, right? This is the nuts and bolts of the city, making sure that sewage gets handled correctly. Otherwise, it's a really terrible experience. And these guys do a great job. And I'm very thankful for them. He's celebrating his 15 years in maintenance and repairs, and he is known for his sense of humor. Thank you to John Gianoli. We know him as our supervisor for parks, all of the parks maintenance, trees. He is celebrating his 15 years. He is also a Millbrae resident. We have a number of our staff that live here in Millbrae. So very thankful to have them both living and working here. Christopher Junio, the lead crew for Public Works, also in collections. And one of his big contributions was bringing CCTV to our collections division. So thank you for that, Christopher. Paul Neely, senior maintenance worker. He was actually instrumental in helping to move the gazebo to its new location, which I know the public really enjoys going down there, and staff have done such a great job decorating for all the various holidays. And finally, another 15-year Becky Lynn from the finance department. Becky helped us transition to the new financial management system. She does all of the purchase orders and accounts payable for all city departments. The city would not run without Becky. And in our 20 years, we're celebrating 3 20-year employees. Amalia Pena, she's back in the finance department. This poor thing is in charge of water and sewer billing. So she takes all of the guff from our public and does it with a smile, always explaining how the money is used and where it goes. So Amalia, you've got a tough job. Thank you for your 20 years with us. Thank you to Carlos, Carlos Robledo. Carlos will not be listening to us because he retired. He's worked and lived here in Millbrae, but he's recently relocated to El Paso to be with more of his family. He was responsible for maintaining our streets. And then somebody we know and love, Key Lim, is celebrating his 20 years with us. Key has been at many council meetings, responsible for sewer modernization, water, green infrastructure, bike lanes, all the work happening at the Seroptimus Park. I hope everybody will soon be able to walk up the new trail. Key, thank you for your many years and all of your patience in explaining to me all of the public works activities. And then thank you to our 25-year service pin, Jack Diaz, who's also from Public Works. He works in water quality and distribution. You know, the one thing I never hear, we hear complaints about water rates all the time, but I am grateful for how fabulous our water is, that it always runs, that it's there for us, and very thankful for all of our staff. Whether you've been with us a couple of months or 25 years or longer, thank you for all your service to the city of Millbrae. And I'm done, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that recognition of our hardworking staff. I know we also received an email. The Chair Turner of the Parks and Recreation Commission also sent a very nice email to the park staff, John Gianoli and the rest of the parks crew, for all the work that they're doing, making sure that our residents have safe, clean places to be outdoors during this COVID pandemic. So thank you very much for that.
Can I also add for all of them too? We had thought that we would build the community garden with labor, but it turns out plastic lumber is horribly heavy. So park staff did just, they were absolutely amazing and wonderful. And I appreciate their willingness to work with the Leos on the new park bench project. So it takes a city to make a city, and they're great. And thank you, John, for being the head of that, and Craig.
Okay. All right, let's go to Councilwoman Oliva next.
Thank you. I think a lot of all my comments were covered during our meeting with airport land use and what I had to say about that. And of course, the seniors. And I wanted to mention how they're very, very happy to have that live cam. A couple of them need a few tutoring segments to see how they can make it happen. But other than that, they were boasting. The ones that could do it were boasting about how great it was. I just wanted to mention one other item, and that is one of our residents, Evelyn, is 103 years old this weekend. And I want to thank our chief for organizing a beautiful roundabout around up Cappuccino, down Bertocchi, and around Hacienda. And I think you guys that could participate, I gave everybody a ring out there, and it was quite a parade. And it was probably the best pandemic party I've been to. So Evelyn, happy birthday. And thank you guys for all participating.
Thank you for those comments and happy birthday to Evelyn. All right, let's go to Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Several things, and as Councilmember Lee, thank you so much for your amazing advocacy for us on the Bay Area Association of Governments, ABAG. That is one of the tragedies of term limits. Millbrae is losing a fantastic advocate for us, and the city council as a whole. I think we really need to discuss whoever applies for those positions and make sure that we have adequate representation moving forward on that. Also like to thank staff for all their decorating of the gazebo during Halloween and Christmas and everything. They've done an amazing job on all of that. Thank you so much. I noticed an email on energy efficient rebates. I hope the city's promoting that by Bayren. So that's a great program. Also, I noticed on one of the social media platforms, there is now a fruit sharing club going on. So I know many of us, oh, hi, Dustin. I know many of us have fruit trees that are great in Millbrae. So really exchanging fruit between residents, I think, is a great, great program. Fantastic voter turnout in Millbrae, 86% or more. Applause to all the residents who participated in the process. That was just record-breaking overall. Thank you to everyone who participated in our democracy, which is not a spectator sport, as we know. And thank you for everything, the blessings we have as we approach Thanksgiving. I think we should all take time to appreciate everything that we have, and a lot of people don't have these days. So the food banks are still in dire need of contributions, and it's a difficult time for a lot of people. So it's one of the best times to come together and really reach out and take care of our friends and neighbors if we can. Even just waving hi is a good thing with a almost smile through our masks. Thank you too to the public for participating and really wearing your masks, trying to keep everybody safe. Millbrae has done a great job, and because of those residents and those visitors, we can keep a lot of our businesses open. Because if they didn't do that, a lot of our businesses would be closing more so than ever before. So thank you, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, I recorded the State of the City address. It should be posted any moment now, hopefully early tomorrow on MCTV. It's a video address this year, so keep an eye open for that. I also attended the commute.org meeting last week. We've been working on a strategic plan update. I've been on the subcommittee working on that for the past several months. That was discussed at the regular meeting. It's not quite done yet, but one of the items that came up both in the subcommittee meetings and at the full board meeting last week is the need to provide transportation alternatives to low-income workers, service workers who often are not don't get very good coverage from public transportation or from the commute.org shuttles. So looking for ways to do that, to better integrate that with the other commute programs. Also working through transportation demand management and using potentially commute.org as kind of a resource for the county. So as cities work on planning, on developments, they can look to commute.org to help with best practices to make sure that transit is part of those plans, and that employers are providing commute services to their employees. I also attended a library JPA meeting a couple weeks ago. We discussed the reopening plan. This was before we were moved into the red tier, and looks like we now possibly will be going to purple tier shortly. But it was discussed at the time that the libraries would reopen for limited, in-person services starting in January, to allow for some browsing, some computer labs and computer services, but obviously at a lower capacity than what than their full capacity. If we're now going to be in the red or purple tier, that those plans very well could change. So we'll keep an eye open for that. We also attended the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting last week, where they discussed their work plan, as well as the skate park mural, which is also being worked on by the Cultural Arts Advisory Committee. There is an artist that has been selected who's going to be working on that, who's worked on other murals throughout the Bay Area. I believe the funding is still a question as to how it's going to be paid for, but probably through a fundraising effort. And then the Sister Cities Commission, as we know, the agreements were approved with both Dongguan, China, and Ramallah, Palestine. The formal agreements themselves were approved by the council a couple months ago, last month, and I have signed them. They're now going to be sent overseas, so I hope our clerk's office and city staff are working to get those signed so that we can begin to have formal communications with those cities. Also would like to congratulate Councilwoman Pappen and Vice Mayor Schneider for strong re-election this month, as well as to our new council member elect, Commissioner Anders Fung, who I see is in the audience with us this evening. We look forward to the reorganization ceremony in virtual on December 8th. So we'll see you there. We also have, again, a special meeting next Thursday at 7 p.m. So we'll see you all there as well. So wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and to stay safe this weekend. And we will see you all again next week. So thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Mayor, Council. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good evening. Good evening to all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Giving.